Ryan, I can't do this anymore. I'm tired of waiting for a future that's never coming. Those were the last words Emma said before walking out of my life. It was a cold evening, rain tapping against the windows, the smell of burnt coffee still hanging in the air. She stood by the door with her suitcase, wearing that gray coat I'd bought her last winter, the one she said made her feel safe. Now she couldn't even look me in the eye. Emma, I said softly, just stay, please, things will get better, I'm working on it. She cut me off. Ryan, you've been working on it for 3 years, I can't live off promises. My chest tightened. You know I lost my job because the company shut down, I'm trying to rebuild. She scoffed, you're always trying, but trying doesn't pay rent, Ryan, I need stability, not dreams. Her voice cracked but her face stayed cold. She wasn't the girl I'd fallen in love with anymore. I looked at her, the woman I'd shared everything with, late-night ramen dinners, broken dreams, laughter and pain. Now she was leaving like none of it ever happened. Is there someone else? I asked quietly. She hesitated, that half-second pause that tells you the truth before words ever do. There's no one else, she said finally, just someone who has his life together. That was it, no goodbye kiss, no last look. She closed the door behind her and the sound echoed through the empty apartment like thunder in my chest. For a long time, I just stood there, staring at the door she'd walked out of, wondering how love could disappear so silently. The next few weeks were a blur. I stopped answering calls, I quit going out, even the sunlight felt heavy. Our apartment, once full of laughter, now felt like a museum of memories. Her toothbrush still by the sink. Her mug still on the shelf. The sweater she always stole from me still draped on the couch. I kept telling myself she'd come back, that maybe she'd realize love meant more than money. But she didn't. I saw her 2 weeks later, through a cafe window downtown. She wasn't alone. A man sat across from her in a tailored suit, Rolex glinting under the lights. He laughed. She laughed back, the same laugh that used to belong to me. And that's when I knew. She moved on. Back then, I was working as a freelance web designer, barely making enough to cover bills. Clients ghosted me, payments came late. Life felt like an endless loop of failure and exhaustion. But that day at the cafe, something inside me broke and then rebuilt. I walked home in the rain, drenched, shaking, angry, but not at her. At myself. Because I had made my life so small that it was easy for her to walk out of it. That night I made a promise, this isn't the end, this is the beginning. I sold my gaming console, my old camera, even my vintage guitar, everything that wasn't essential. Then I locked myself in that tiny apartment and worked. Days blurred into nights. I taught myself coding, marketing, UI/UX design, brand strategy, anything that could build value. I didn't have money, but I had time and pain, and both became fuel. For months I barely slept. Coffee, instant noodles, and a vision kept me alive. A vision of becoming someone no one could overlook again. 6 months later, I landed my first big client, a small startup looking for a full digital rebrand. They paid me $2,000, more money than I'd seen in months. I didn't spend a dollar on celebration. I reinvested it all into upgrading my skills, tools, and portfolio. That one project led to 2, then 5, then 10. Soon I wasn't chasing clients, they were chasing me. Within a year I had a small team of freelancers working under me. I named my company Nova Digital. The irony, Nova means new star. That's what I was becoming, quietly, steadily, a light that no one believed would ever shine. Meanwhile, Emma's updates kept popping up on social media, luxury dinners, vacation selfies, photos with that same suited guy. Every time I saw them, a part of me hurt, but a larger part of me burned with motivation. People say revenge doesn't heal pain, maybe they're right, but self-improvement does. So I focused harder. Year 2 was brutal. Late nights turned into early mornings, I lost friends, missed birthdays, worked through sickness. But then one day everything changed. A major corporate client saw my work online and reached out. A month later, we signed a $100,000 contract. That deal changed everything. Suddenly, I wasn't just a freelancer, I was a CEO. I moved into a new apartment downtown, floor-to-ceiling windows, city skyline view, everything I'd dreamed of. But when I stood there looking at the lights, I realized something. All the success in the world meant nothing if it came from bitterness. So I shifted my mindset. I didn't want to win against her anymore. I wanted to win for myself. A year and a half later, Nova Digital was featured in a major tech magazine. My photo standing in front of our office was printed under the headline, "From Heartbreak to CEO, How Ryan Carter Built a $5 Million Brand from Scratch." The day that issue hit the stands, my phone buzzed. A message from Emma. "Ryan, I just saw the article. I can't believe it's you. I'm proud of you." I stared at the screen for a long time. Proud of me? The same woman who once said I'd never make it, now calling me successful. I typed a reply, then deleted it. Sometimes silence says more than words ever can. A few weeks later, fate decided to twist the knife. I was at a corporate networking event, surrounded by investors and executives. And there she was, Emma, standing by the bar holding a glass of wine, wearing that same gray coat. Our eyes met. She froze, then smiled awkwardly. "Ryan, wow, you look different." I smiled. "Life does that." She glanced around. "You're the CEO of Nova, right? I saw your interview." I nodded. "Yeah, it's been a journey." She laughed nervously. "I always knew you'd make it." I raised an eyebrow. "No, you didn't, but that's okay. I didn't either, not back then." She looked down, embarrassed. "I'm happy for you," she said softly. "Really?" I just nodded. "Thank you." Before walking away, I said the words that had been waiting in my chest for 2 years. Sometimes losing everything is what teaches you how to build anything. Then I turned and left, leaving her standing there, silent, surrounded by the very world she once chose over me. That night, as I drove through the city, the same streets where I'd once been broken, I realized something. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need closure. I didn't even need her to regret it. Because I'd already won, the moment I stopped chasing love and started chasing purpose. And that's when I finally understood. She left me because I had nothing. But what she didn't know was that losing her gave me everything I needed to become who I was meant to be. After that night, I thought I'd buried that chapter of my life forever. But life, it has a strange sense of humor. You see, success doesn't just change your life, it changes how people see you. Suddenly, people who once ignored my messages were now flooding my inbox with "Hey, bro, long time," or "Proud of you, man." Investors wanted meetings, clients wanted partnerships. Everyone wanted a piece of the success story. But I wasn't the same Ryan anymore. The old me worked for approval. The new me worked for purpose. I had everything I once thought I wanted: money, recognition, even admiration. But sometimes at night when the noise faded, I'd catch myself staring at the ceiling, wondering if Emma ever thought about me. Not out of longing, but curiosity. Did she ever regret it? 2 months after that corporate event, I found out. I was meeting a new client, a luxury fashion brand looking for a digital relaunch. When I walked into their downtown office, the first thing I noticed was the name on the project lead's file. Emma Reynolds. For a second I froze. It couldn't be. But then the door opened and there she was. Same hazel eyes, same voice. Just dimmer. She looked surprised, shocked even. "Ryan," she whispered. I smiled politely. "Hi Emma, long time." Her expression flickered between pride and regret. "You're the CEO we're partnering with." "Apparently," I said with a small grin. The silence that followed could have filled the entire room. Her assistant broke it. "Should I bring coffee?" Emma nodded quickly, trying to compose herself. "Yes, 2 cappuccinos." When the assistant left, she sighed. "I didn't expect to see you again." "I didn't either," I said calmly, "but life's good at surprises." The meeting went smoothly, professionally at least. She presented her marketing strategy, I discussed my digital vision. We were two strangers sharing polite smiles, pretending we hadn't once shared a life. But I noticed small things: the way her hands trembled when she passed me a document, the faint exhaustion behind her perfect smile. After the meeting, as I was about to leave, she stopped me. "Ryan," she said softly, "can we talk, not as business partners, as old friends?" I hesitated. "Sure." We walked out to the building's terrace. The city stretched below us, tall glass towers, endless traffic, and the hum of ambition. She leaned on the railing, staring down. You look happy, peaceful, I'm glad. Thank you, I said simply. She exhaled, things haven't exactly gone the way I thought they would. I looked at her carefully, you mean with him? She nodded slowly. It ended a year ago, he wasn't who I thought he was, money, status, all fake, and when it fell apart so did he. Her voice cracked, I guess I got what I deserved. I said nothing. She turned to face me. Ryan, I made a mistake. I left the one person who truly believed in me, and now I can't even look at you without feeling ashamed. For a moment, I saw the old Emma, the one who laughed at my stupid jokes, who believed in dreams before they turned into price tags. But that version of her was gone, replaced by someone the world had hardened. I sighed, Emma, I don't hate you. I did once maybe, but not anymore. She looked surprised. You do? No, because if you hadn't left, I'd still be the man who needed saving. You pushed me to save myself. Tears welled up in her eyes. I don't deserve your kindness. I smiled faintly. It's not kindness, it's closure. A week later, after that project wrapped, she called again. Ryan, would you like to grab dinner sometime, just to catch up? I almost said no, but something in her voice, soft, uncertain, made me agree. We met at a small Italian restaurant. The same place we'd gone on our first date years ago. She wore a simple dress this time, no flashy jewelry, no designer bag. Just Emma. Over dinner we talked about everything, life, mistakes, growth. I see your photos everywhere, she said, smiling sadly. Billboards, magazines, interviews, you've really become something incredible. I just stopped waiting for someone to believe in me, I said. She lowered her gaze. You know, I still remember the night I left. You begged me to stay. I thought I was chasing happiness, but I was running away from it. I didn't reply, I just listened. Then she whispered, do you ever think about us? I took a deep breath. I used to, every day, but now when I think about it, I'm grateful, because that pain became my teacher. She blinked fast, fighting tears. Ryan, do you think we could ever try again? I looked at her for a long moment. The same eyes that once made me feel alive now looked like open wounds searching for healing. I smiled gently. Emma, you're part of my story but not my destination. Her lips quivered. So that's it. Yeah, I said quietly, that's it. A month later, I was invited to speak at a global entrepreneurship summit in New York. Standing on that massive stage, lights shining bright, I looked at the crowd, hundreds of faces watching, waiting. And for a moment, my mind drifted back to the man I used to be, broke, heartbroken, lost. Then I began. I once lost everything, love, money, direction, but that loss gave me something greater, clarity. Sometimes life has to break you before it rebuilds you. The audience applauded, cameras flashed. And in that noise, I realized this was the closure I'd been searching for. Not a conversation, not an apology, but purpose. A few weeks after the summit, I got a message on Instagram. From Emma. It said, I watched your speech online, you were amazing, I'm so proud of who you've become. I used to think you weren't enough for me, now I see I wasn't enough for you. I didn't reply. Because there are some stories that don't need words to end, just peace. Life moved fast after that. Nova Digital expanded overseas. I opened offices in London, Dubai, and Singapore. My name became a brand. But more importantly, I found balance. I started mentoring young entrepreneurs, helping them avoid the mistakes I once made. That's when I met Sophia, a quiet, brilliant developer from one of our projects. She wasn't loud or flashy, she didn't care about luxury or fame. She just cared about building, learning, and growing. The first time she smiled at me, it felt like sunlight after years of storm. Slowly we became close, not because of attraction but because of understanding. Sophia reminded me what peace looked like. She never asked about my past, never judged it. And for the first time in years, I stopped looking back. 6 months later, Nova Digital hosted its 5-year anniversary gala, a huge event, full of cameras, lights, and press. As I stepped onto the stage to deliver my speech, I saw a familiar face at the back of the crowd. Emma. She wasn't dressed in designer this time, just a simple black dress. Her eyes met mine, she smiled softly and mouthed, "I'm proud." I smiled back not out of nostalgia but gratitude. Because I finally understood she wasn't my villain. She was my turning point. After the event, Sophia and I went to the balcony. The city lights glittered below us, the same skyline that had watched me rise from nothing. She slipped her hand into mine. "You okay?" I nodded, "Yeah, just thinking about how far we've come." She smiled, "You deserve it all." And at that moment, I realized something powerful. The best revenge isn't success. It's peace. Because success shows them what they lost. But peace shows you what you gained. That night before sleeping, I opened my laptop and found a message waiting. It was from Emma again. "Hey Ryan, I just wanted to thank you for forgiving me when I couldn't even forgive myself. Watching you become who you are reminded me it's never too late to start over. I'm finally working on my own business. You inspired that, thank you." I smiled, closed the laptop, and whispered to myself, "That's the ending we both needed." Months passed, life moved on quietly but beautifully. Nova Digital was thriving beyond anything I'd imagined. We were now one of the top firms in the country, new contracts every week, awards and headlines, but success didn't feel loud anymore, it felt calm. Sophia and I had grown closer, not in a rushed, dramatic way but naturally. She grounded me, she reminded me that peace was worth more than any spotlight. One evening, after a long day, I got a message. From Emma. It read, "I just wanted to say thank you for everything, Ryan, not for money or help, for showing me what real growth looks like. I've started a small business now, it's not huge but it's mine." I smiled at the screen. It wasn't the message I ever expected, but maybe it was the one I needed. I replied with just one line. "I'm proud of you, Emma, truly." And that was it, no drama, no rekindled romance, just peace. Weeks later, I was invited to give a talk at a university, the same place where Emma and I first met years ago. As I stood on stage, facing a hall full of students chasing dreams like I once did, I told them, "I used to think being left behind meant I failed, but sometimes people leave because their chapter in your story is over, and if you spend your life chasing the past, you'll never find your future." The crowd was silent, listening, feeling. I ended with this line. "Don't chase those who left, build the life they'll wish they never walked away from." The applause echoed through the hall. And in that moment I realized I'd finally healed. That night Sophia and I sat by the window of our new apartment. The city lights shimmered like scattered dreams finally coming true. She leaned her head on my shoulder. "Do you ever miss her?" I thought for a moment. "Not her," I said quietly, "but I miss the version of me that loved her, the one who believed love was forever." Sophia smiled softly. "And now?" "Now," I said, looking at her, "I believe peace is." She laughed gently. "You sound like one of your speeches." "Maybe," I said, smiling, "but this one's real." As I looked out at the skyline, the same city where she left me, where I broke and where I rebuilt, I whispered to myself. She left when I had nothing. Now I have everything. And none of it feels like revenge. It feels like freedom.